What's what's up, YouTube? I'm gonna invent something that clips your phone onto your visor, because that's a good place to mount a phone when you're not driving. I guess even if you are driving, you could do it, but I kind of need my visor. And I gotta admit, I think this is the first car I've ever had with the visor that slides like that, and I tell you, it's pretty damn fancy. I already ate a few donuts, and we just had, so hopefully this live stream is in about um, the article's about chronic wasting disease, which is a disease that affects deer currently. It's a prion disease, which means, and I just looked this up, which is the only reason I know, that it has to do, it's a neurodegenerative, neurodegenerative disorder. So it makes your brain degenerate. Something about folding bacteria folding incorrectly, forming bad structures, and the structure of things on a molecular level is important. So these deer, anyways, end up with like holes in their brains and all this gross stuff, right? And some people are worried that people are eating these deer, and if there's a chance that this neurodegenerative disorder could affect humans that are eating these deer or processing the deer. I don't know if they're 100% sure how these types of diseases spread, if it's not cooking it, if it's blood, if it's like, the digestive tract or what. But I'm sure there's answers online. I haven't looked into it a lot, but it's kind of an interesting thing. It's of course not the first disease that humans have dealt with that, infection from animals is kind of a concern. Of course, there's the mad cow disease, swine flu, avian bird flu. I feel like we're just going through the animals. Like, where's monkey flu? Where's the elephant? In fact, Ebola, it could sort of be called the monkey flu, because people, I think, I was just reading recently that, what do they call it? Bushmeat. Bushmeat's like from crazy animals like that, in countries that eat. Maybe it's crazy for us. Maybe it's not crazy for them to eat a monkey. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a sentient creature. It's a mammal. I mean, cows are mammals too, but anyways, cows are also sentient. They're not the brightest in the world, but they are sentient. I don't think they know they're cows, but they know they're something. Anyways, yeah. So this deer thing is sort of, what's up, RG? Talking about deers with holes in their head, and is it going to affect humans, as well as space prepping, of course, because that's also equally important. But when you hunt squirrels, squirrels can carry the bubonic plague, among other things. So one of the things that's not a bad idea to do is to check the liver of the squirrel, because I guess the liver, if they have the plague, looks dark and has spots on it or whatever. And if they have a good looking liver, there's a chance they're a healthy squirrel. So it got me to thinking, if you're supposed to check deer for holes in their brain, do you have to, bring the bone saw with you and like open up their skull and check if they have holes in their brain? That would kind of put me off eating deer meat a little bit. Pretty gross stuff, in my opinion. So I don't know, look like it started in Colorado. It looks like they just let it out of a lab in Colorado. I hate to say it, and I'm not the biggest tinfoil hat guy, but the cases, as far as like the different areas that there's cases, when you look on the map, pretty much all of Colorado is blued out, and then it sort of spreads more south and kind of a little bit around there. You get a neurodegenerative brain disease and end up with holes in your head. I mean, you might be able to go on disability, but you also might have holes in your head, so it's kind of a problem. The other topic that I wanted to talk about, and unless some of my viewers bring up other exciting things, and it may seem sort of like a silly topic to talk about, but there's a lot of activity in regards to the space race. these days. I think it's kind of re has been reawakened through a variety of things. Let's see if I can not put my hand in front of the lens. Companies getting into it. What's creative? SpaceX being one of the more popular, but Boeing's working on stuff, NASA's working on the Space Launch System. The Russians been at it for a while with Soyuz, of course. And then newer entrants like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, Virgin Orbit, which is different than Virgin Galactic. Virgin Galactic's try to launch people to kind of like below low Earth orbit, give them a pseudo space experience. And for a while, that's all we thought Virgin Blue Origin was doing too. But they're apparently building or planning on building a ridiculously huge rocket that's going to even dwarf the Starship, formerly known as BFR. Called so I got to thinking about prepping when you're in space and prepping as an astronaut, and I realized that maybe prepping's not the right way to look at it. But if you're on a Mars base or a Moon base, you're kind of homesteading up there. I mean, it's sort of between homesteading and camping and summer camp. You might not be planning on staying out there forever, but I think we can agree that there is a lot of space junk out there. Someday, getting to space and having a ship will be easy enough that there will be private space trash men and women and other non-gendered space trash people, if you will. They're going to be space trash people, and their job is going to be to go clean up space trash. And they will get paid to clean certain lanes, certain areas, certain orbits, in front of a spacecraft, behind a spacecraft. Let's say you have a satellite that the orbit is deteriorating, it has to do a burn. You could be contracted to do a burn path cleaning. So you clean out the area in front of where it's going to do its burn. So you make sure that when it reaches its nominal orbit again, that it doesn't run into anything. For example, maybe you could put up space nets in front, around, all dimensions around a satellite, so stuff isn't running into it. All these different things you could do. But at some point, there's going to be enough of us in space. There are going to be some preppers in space. Face it. Just like there'll be some, people on the left and people on the right and pro-gun and anti-gun people. There are going to be some preppers in space. Because when you're in space, you are kind of homesteading, Everything has to be self-sufficient, down to your air and water. Yeah, some of the space stuff is traveling really fast, and as many of you know, kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared. So even if you have something that's less than a kilogram, if it's moving at 17,000 kilometers a second or some ridiculous speed, it carries a lot of energy, and you really can't. I mean, you could theoretically design the rocket to withstand that much energy, but it's hard, because a little meteorite traveling very fast, especially if it's in the direction, if it's traveling in the same direction in orbit, maybe it's only a few hundred or a few thousand kilometers per second, or, meters per second velocity different than yours. But if it's traveling the opposite direction, it's like a head-on collision, right? So that's kind of crazy. Yeah, they do get some training, but the bottom line is if enough stuff breaks, you're kind of screwed, I was watching stuff on space recently. Maybe that's why I'm on the space buzz. But one of the things that was kind of interesting, they were talking about the Russians in space, and they said that the Russians are really good at kind of doing these MacGyver hacks, like these really ghetto repairs that make the Americans nervous, apparently. And hacking this stuff together when it breaks, because the Russians have spent many, many days in space and put up a bunch of astronauts, and maybe they haven't gone to the moon with humans, but they're definitely the first, if not second most experienced nation doing space stuff. They've had some failures that kind of were setbacks. Yeah, duct tape. Yeah, I'm sure they have duct tape on the ISS, right? I'm almost positive they bring up duct tape to space. It is kind of useful. Heaven forbid they have, to do anything too crazy with it, but yeah, at some point there's going to be a lot of humans living in space, and it's going to, survival up there is tough. And whether it's, people are going to be doing those on how to fix your spaceship, how to patch a hole in your spaceship with bubble gum or something, or how to get in your airlock when you can't see because the anti-fog coating on your space helmet is burning your eyes. I think that happened to Scott Kelly a while ago. There was some coating in his helmet, and it started burning his eyes, and he couldn't see, and he was outside of the vehicle, and he was having all these problems. So it may seem sort of like a fun, fantastic topic, but we're gonna get there faster than you think. I think the next few decades are gonna be a little crazy, presuming that society doesn't collapse, and I don't think it will. I think we're gonna have a lot of change and a lot of turmoil. When Venezuela is having trouble right now, yeah, there are a lot of challenges to space, without a doubt. Radiation, not the least of which. Radiation, the zero G light is really hard on people. Uh, maybe I'll open a post space spa. That's something they don't really have now. NASA, because they've sent up people for numbers of days. They love doing those records. We want to have a Russian up there for 275 days or some, and then the next one is up there for 280 days. It's like, never mind that the rest of their life, they might not ever get that bone density back, because that kind of, not a medical expert, but not everything in your body replenishes the same way. So that's a little sketchy to be losing all that bone density. But yeah, space industry is a thing now, but it's mostly for satellites and launching rockets and stuff like that. But more industrial, commercial, multi-million dollar things. But now with CubeSats and like this New Zealand, I can't remember the name of the New Zealand company, but they're doing smaller rockets, and it's going to get to a point where instead of $90 million or $45 million for a couple $1 million, you can launch something into space. That's kind of crazy, right? That is kind of crazy. I mean, if it cost, people invest in different things. If you are a prepper, and you could launch something in the space for $1,000 to help you with your preps, what would it be? Presuming you could make it do something useful, signal, send you some data. Like, what if you could upload a whole survival guide onto the satellite, and then have a little solar powered phone to just, the data thing is not really, you can hold so much data on an SD card. It's sort of, why would you even try? But maybe your own personal GPS satellite, I don't know. You live in North America. To get coverage on the whole world, you need like 18 satellites. But if you're going to stay somewhere like California, you only need 3 satellites. So if it was $1,000 to launch a satellite, you could launch 3 satellites and have your own personal GPS system across the entire state, just for you. Now, I don't know if you can do that with $1,000 satellite, but I don't know how much money it costs to send a GPS signal. But the point is, these types of questions, like how does CubeSats relate to prepping? How does space homesteading relate to prepping today? It's something that it's going to be talked about more in the future. 10, 15 years ago, if I said, how do tablets relate to prepping, or how do cell phones relate to prepping, you might say, well, you can't really get coverage in the mountains, so, what are you going to do with the cell phone? But these days, it's like I could download 1,000, 10,000, a million pages of information on surviving all onto my cell phone. If I had, like I don't know, a few gigabyte micro SD card, right? So technology and prepping are coming together. I've talked about 3D printing and prepping, custom designing your own preps, or even as a side hustle to make money to buy more preps, right? So we're seeing this, we're sort of seeing this communion of different parts of life, only because everything is becoming so interconnected. Yeah, I mean, you really, if you have $40 in your pocket, you can pretty much buy a really garbage cheap Android phone, a $20 micro SD card, and download from the internet enough survival stuff to keep you training for the next 20 years. You know, you'd probably die before you finished reading all the literature there is on survival. There's a lot out there, and I haven't even really searched too much for it. Maybe I should have a few PDFs on hunting and trapping and something, first aid. I've taken the minimalist approach to prepping, which is kind of some amount of gear, some amount of training, some amount of, savings and mental preparedness, audio and video files. Yeah, right. The video file is up here. This is your most important SD card. It's not very micro. I mean, you could fit a lot of micro SD cards in the size of my big fat head, but it may not be like the best fire starter in the world, but I have an idea. In fact, that's one goal I have this year, is to start fire with a bow drill or a hand drill. I've never done it. I don't know if you guys or gals have done it, but I've never really had a need. Like, I've always had a lighter and some matches on me, and I never thought that it was something important to practice. But as I get older and think more about prepping, um, well, whether or not the average Tom, Dick, or Harry is in space is one thing, but we're going to see a lot more people in space for sure, and space is going to become more accessible, just like traveling in boats or traveling in planes. I can fly 400 miles in an hour for $50. Used to be you had to be super rich to jump on a plane, but that's not the case anymore. Man, I wish the chat would stay up. I've tried a bow drill, gotten smoke, no ember blown into flame yet. Okay. Interesting. I just need a good place to start a fire. I feel a little lame starting a fire in a barbecue pit, but probably could. Flint and steel. Yeah, I think that's a challenging way. I don't think people realize it's kind of a challenging way. Now, if you could find flint in the wild, that would be a prepper skill. I don't know how you do that other than taking metal and striking a bunch of rocks, or trying to find rocks that are known to have flint in them, But I'm sure if you Google how to find flint, you can figure it out. Flint in a file, nice. I've made fire with a Bic lighter, a barbecue lighter, and matches. And maybe a magnifying glass once. Never used a fire piston, never used a bow drill, never used a hand drill. What other methods are there? Never used. That CubeSat thing's got me thinking. I would love to hear video responses, and I'm sure I'll get, 20 views, 15, all of 10 views on this video, but if you could launch something for a satellite for $1,000, maybe let's say you could design it, you had another $1,000 to design it or something, But it would be interesting. Yeah, RJ, I'd love to go to my local forest, but I think I don't know, actually the fire restrictions might be kind of low right now, but it's usually only in sort of like developed campsites, so I'd have to pay to go camping, and I'm not above camping, but I'm just not really dying to go camping next to a bunch of other yokels. Got to do some off-site undeveloped camping, and they're not always cool with building fires in undeveloped areas. You kind of have to figure it out on a case by case basis and see what the fire restrictions are and the fire permits, because they make these restrictions, then they just make them for like a year, or it's not like, oh, this weekend you can't have fires. It's like, for the next year you just can't build fires outside of developed fire pits until we say so. So kind of unfortunate sometimes. What would be a cool video, do some snow camping, go stay somewhere up in the snow, and then try to build a fire out of stuff that's really, really wet and cold. Yeah, I mean, my local parks have barbecue, sort of steel barbecue pits, and I think the grill folds up. It'd be a little bit cramped of an area to work in, but it wouldn't be impossible. It reminds me, I do need to check the Angeles National Forest website and see what the fire restrictions are these days, especially since my adventure pass, where the heck is that thing? I think my adventure pass expires in a month. Sadly, I really didn't get my money's worth out of it, although I'm certainly happy to support the parks by purchasing it. March, yeah. Oh, my sticker has been getting demolished. Oh no. Oh, that's unfortunate. My sticker is having a bad day. Well, I think my laundry is almost done. We're doing a triple errand, laundry, breakfast, and then when my stuff's in the dryer, I go do grocery shopping because I don't feel like sitting here for 35 minutes. And I come back, and honestly, there's 2 minutes on the machine, and it's pretty much perfect. What's up, Tron Vu from Vietnam? That's cool, man. It really doesn't matter where you live. Being prepared and having a little bit of, food saved up, having like a little bit of a homestead, if you can keep some animals or something, it's it's all useful. It's all useful. I've never been to Southeast Asia. I would someday. I really need to get out there and just get out in a boat, go explore the jungle, go check out some little tiny market and get some crazy food. It's it would be cool, man. I don't know, maybe you could show me like a cool bar in your town. I don't know what part of Vietnam you live in, but maybe I'll come check out your place, man. Check out your digs, your favorite local attractions. Maybe they got some crazy festivals once a year, who knows? I need to do more traveling. In fact, I got to get over to Scotland this year. See my buddy. I got to plan that trip, man. Gonna go to Scotland, gonna go to Europe, maybe Berlin, maybe a few other cities. I want to hit up more cities, but it's just, you can't, travel time, and I'm not trying to get too crazy with that, but it's definitely going to happen. The only thing I'm worried about is being on a plane for a stupid amount of time. Like I think I got to break it up here to New York and then New York to Edinburgh. But that's going to be a super long flight. Super long flight. Well, look, folks, I'm glad you all joined me for a little bit of a live session this morning. I know we didn't have a lot of super exciting stuff to talk about, but check out chronic wasting disease affecting deer. Really interesting stuff, in my opinion. Especially since a lot of people think they're going to just go hunt and kill deer and squirrel, when the apocalypse comes. No, I have not contacted LA Motorcycle Salvage, but I will. Maybe I'll call them today. I will call them today, in fact, see what they got going on. Because, man, if they had a carb for $50, I just might buy the damn thing. I looked online for carbs before I go, and, man, they want a couple $100 for them used, and new they're like $400. So, not really trying to drop 400 carb on it if I can avoid it. But anyways, things are happening in 2019. We're gonna go abroad. Maybe I can meet some European preppers. In fact, I need to do a few videos on some European prepping stuff. Talk about the yellow vests in France. Maybe we'll check in with some countries like Spain and Greece that were having some tough economic times. Check in with some new populist leaders. There's some new countries, not new countries, but countries that are having some new populist leaders, some new conservative leaders. Government control's a big deal over there. The European Union exerting control on Europe, doing things like affecting migration, trying to limit migration numbers. See you, creative. And yeah, it's all right. Thanks for the reminder, RG. But yeah, LA prep. I would love to just spend the rest of my life traveling around making prepping videos. Just quit my job and make videos reviewing I just want companies to send me their crap and I'll review it. I'll send it back. I don't even need to keep all of it, but send me your shovel. Send me your new multi-tool. Send me your, super light, ultra weight backpack. And I think if I had a bigger channel and I actually did a lot more outdoor stuff, I could probably make that happen. I don't know if I'm big enough for a sponsor yet, and I really haven't put a lot of energy into it, but maybe I could put just a little more energy into it. You figure a company can sell a widget, they can make it for, $10 and sell it for 30. If it costs $5 to ship it to me and $5 to ship it back, maybe I'll even offer to ship the damn thing back, I don't know, but they should, if they sell one or two, should be worth the trouble. So, and I like to think I would give an honest review of products. I wouldn't just say everything's great, buy everything that I use. If I was reviewing a piece of junk, I'd call it a piece of junk. So, at any rate, YouTube, we're going to sign off, go put my clothes in the dryer, go get some food, push start, check the valve clearance on the bike. Maybe I'll do a video on that, then push start it, probably fail to get it running, and then give up for the rest of the day. No, I don't know. We'll give it a little bit of effort. But until next time, watch out for those deer with hole in their head. Keep all your space guard